Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy.
And I almost ended him during my live stream. If anybody's coming over from that one, he's lucky to still be here sitting with me.
Oh no, the feminist is threatening me.
Yes, not the feminist, the wife. Which is
okay,
worse.
well, let's get into the stories here. Donald Trump, Elon Musk are having a tiff, so to speak. They might have had a divorce. Also, we're going to talk mainly politics on the night show and pop culture in the day. But there was one pop culture story I did want to talk about, and that was the race swapping of Black Panther.
Oh, you did want to talk about that.
Yeah. That being said, if you did watch our Spanish show, I was messing with all the cameras trying to get the colors correct. So hopefully it looks a lot better.
And distracted me so I couldn't actually do the show.
Well, we're on now, so let's put on a show for the people.
Sure.
Why don't we start with the race swapping of the Black Panther? And I actually missed the story the day before, and my jaw dropped. I had to triple check it because I didn't believe it when I first seen it. It's almost like an alternate universe. This is always the meme. They say, well, what happens if you race swap the Black Panther? Mm-hmm. People would be angry.
Yeah. Quickly, Rafa says, hello, Rafa. And he asks, did I miss something interesting from the Spanish live? You missed Ed's show,
you missed me making all the cameras look phenomenal now.
And
if you notice, the colors are a little bit better.
And me being distracted the whole time because he was running around the studio.
Well, she's just angry because she has to refilm her little beginning bit, which she messed up on anyway.
No.
Okay, let's go into the Black Panther story. They don't want to hear our tiffs.
Well, they want to hear about the Elon Trump one. Okay, I'll fix it as we go.
Okay.
So this is coming from That Park Place. If you don't follow WDW Pro or That Park Place on YouTube, they always have great information and analysis regarding entertainment. So Marvel's new Black Panther is white. Yes, seriously, this is coming from Marvin Montanaro.
Yeah, and this is a mistake on every level. They've done race swapping plenty in Hollywood. Nobody likes when they do it. If it's not one of the main components of a character, you can do it. When they were going to race swap 007 for Idris Elba, I actually liked Idris Elba. He's from Britain, so I wouldn't have minded a race swap with that particular character. But with somebody like Anne Boleyn,
yes, and Idris Elba.
Anne Boleyn, and when they also try to do Cleopatra, those are historical figures. Yes. You shouldn't be race swapping. Black Panther might not be a historical figure, but his racial identity is highly important to the character.
Yeah, it's one of the main things, and one of the few characters for Marvel, at least, that exemplified Black characters in a positive light, and as a superhero, and it started that way and it should continue that way, same as with most of other characters that are beloved by the people.
Why don't you read a little bit of it and we'll get into it.
In the most unexpected turns in modern comic book storytelling, Marvel has introduced a white Black Panther, it's an oxymoron, as the new ruler of Wakanda in Marvel Knights The World to Come Volume 1. The mantle, long associated with King T'Challa and Wakanda's African legacy, has now passed to his son Katima, a blonde-haired, white-skinned warrior who defeats T'Challa in ritual combat and claims the throne for himself. And there he is.
Okay, and this is not a movie, and hopefully they have enough sense not to put this in the movie, but it is a done comic book. We don't know the whole storyline. My theory on was that they were going to race swap Black Panther, turn him to a villain, then have a new Black Panther come up and kill him. That's actually black. Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, that would be the only logical way to explain this away, other than either trolling or they completely lost their minds.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, they had a few of the fans they still had were there because of all of the inclusivity that they were now putting into it, and this completely would erase it as well.
Well, you're trying to piss off the left and the right here. Yeah. Disney owns Marvel. Marvel and Disney just need to stay away from politics. When they do stay away from politics, for the most part, they make something like Lilo and Stitch, which they may piss off both sides a little bit, but it was not highly political in any sense, and it was very successful. You start doing things like this, it's going to make permanent backlash. The comic books are already hurting right now. Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's go into the tiff between Trump and Musk.
Elon. And Rafa says, there goes the comedic value. Yes, it was very comedic when I couldn't remember anything.
Well, we live in Mexico City, and there is a ton of comic book shops here. Actually, Mexico City is, I would say, very into comics. We went to the comic book store when I was going to jiu-jitsu one day when I tried to do it again and I failed. But the comic book store is very big. It's like a traditional comic book store that has new and used comics. In Canada, they have nothing like that. They have one store that was extremely tiny, and it wasn't very popular.
And here they just had like a different style Comic-Con. I'll move away from this for a bit. They had a different version of Comic-Con here, I believe this past Saturday and Sunday. CDXX or CXDZ, I don't remember the name, but we were gonna go, and then I found out that Pedro Pascal was gonna be there, and then I really kind of wanted to go ask him questions, but they make it really hard for independent media, let's just say, to even get through the door. But I was going to say, with Mexico and Latin America, one thing we're known for, and we're known for more and more within the industry, is that we're big fans. Like when we're fans of something, we're big fans of it. So merch, any kind of activations they want to do, anything during really like premieres or film releases, they do really well here in Mexico when they do those extra little things that maybe in the States people have become tired and used to, and Canada as well. So Mexico, it is a good market to kind of explore for those kinds of things and that kind of promotion of movies, comic books, etc.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's easy to promote inside of Mexico because you're really just targeting Mexico City and letting it spread out organically from there. In the United States or Canada, you're having to target multiple big cities and things like that. So, okay, let's go into, like I said, the TIFF. Oh, we have a comment.
And Walker says, well, speaking of the TIFF, Walker says, Trump and Musk fighting is the first crisis of the Trump administration.
Yeah, and we're going to get into it because it's continuing on now and it's getting more serious, or at least that's what it appears to be.
And Rafa says, you should introduce Guy to El Libro Vaquero, best Mexican comic. I will. But yes, apparently Elon Musk and Donald Trump are divorcing. They've been tweeting at each other a bunch of different things and saying a bunch of different things about each other as well. For example, Elon Musk, during one of his X rants, said, in light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contract, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately. Trump had said the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. And they've been throwing and hurling insults at each other ever since Musk criticized the big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump and the Republicans were trying to put up.
Yeah, this is interesting. It has a lot of moving parts. I actually don't have a secure take on this quite yet. We're going to have to see if this is a real TIFF, if it's a fake TIFF, if Donald Trump may want to cancel that big, beautiful bill to take a bunch of things out of it. And this really puts pressure on all the conservatives to really vote the new bill in. So that's an interesting take on it. But I think Musk, if it is a real TIFF and a real divide, we'll see if SpaceX actually gets defunded. That means it's a real beef between Trump and Elon Musk. If he defunds just Tesla or doesn't give grants to Tesla, that's minor because I think there's going to be behind the scenes contracts coming. But SpaceX specifically has major military implications. Mm-hmm. So if that contract is pulled, that means that this is real. Also, I think Musk has a lot more leverage than Trump does in this situation. Trump kind of pulls government strings when it comes to money and contracts for Musk. If Musk pulls the plug on SpaceX and then jets to China or Russia, they will give him billions of dollars and they will have the #1 space program in the world. And let's just remember, Elon Musk is originally from South Africa, so he could easily just rescind his citizenship, take a hike to China, and give them the space technology that they want.
I mean, yes, right now, if he stops being in the good graces, or the U.S. government stops being in his good graces, he could take essentially what could become, the leading space exploration agency.
Well, it's not just
okay.
It's not just the leading. It can actually take off and re-land. No other space agency in the world has that. It's a huge technology. If China got a hold of that, and let's just remember, Elon Musk is on extremely good relations with China. Teslas are sold over there. He has manufacturing plants over there. He also has extremely good relations with Russia and their space program. That's kind of how he built up SpaceX originally, was his relationship he had with the Russians. So he really keeps good relationships with everybody, and anybody would be happy to have him. I think if this tiff is real, Trump needs to put his emotions to the side and try to work things out.
Yes, but I do think, I mean, if we're still going to speculate a little bit, maybe that this back and forth they're having is kind of for show or for the outside public, and then within the inside they might be, maybe not still friends, but Trump might be trying to get the bill, not to go through maybe, so they can rework it without having to publicly rework it. And Musk might want to leave the government so people stop burning his cars and his stock stops tanking. But they have, a lot of the things they have said about each other, I just wanted to go quickly, are things that in the end might benefit both of them. Even though it sounds bad right now, in the end, if some of these things go the other way, and I'm going to talk about it in a second, it could actually benefit the one that's being insulted by them. So Musk linked Trump to Epstein. So he said that the Epstein files haven't come out because Donald Trump is in them, and that's the reason why they haven't released them. But if they do release them and it turns out that Trump isn't in it, then this could be easily debunked and could actually end up looking better for Trump. And Elon could just look like, oh, he had no idea what he was talking about.
Well, this is also an opportunity for the Democrats. And I think if this tiff is real, Musk could go over to the moderate Democrats and reform that party. He can't run for president because he's a foreigner, but he could have major influence and really set what the new agenda for the Democratic Party is, and it would be believable, and he could actually fund a lot of candidates so they go in that proper moderate direction. So it would be interesting. The fact that the Democrats have been so progressive for the last 10 years, if they have a sudden switch, people may not trust them, but he would also be able to take independent politicians and really start financing them. So it's going to be interesting to watch Musk, to say the least. I think Trump is the one that really needs to suck up his pride and maybe apologize.
But I wasn't done with my theory. So that was just number one. So Elon linked Musk to Trump with the Epstein thing. Then Musk took a shot at Trump's election win. That could also be easily turned around by both of them in this case.
What did he say about the election win, that he won it for?
He said,
him?
without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control. And Trump could come out and say, no, look, here are the numbers, blah, blah, blah. These are easy things that could end up looking better for the person being insulted by them.
But I like both guys, and that's completely true. Musk won the election for him. The Democrats actually had more billionaires on their side. Mm-hmm. Trump had one billionaire, and that billionaire actually owned X and was a public-facing figure as well. So he brought more than just money to the table.
And now he blocked Trump on X. He did.
Well, the good thing
he blocked Trump's account, so Truth Social.
Good thing he kept his Truth Social.
Now Truth Social comes in handy. Yeah. So a lot of these things,
what was the next one?
Could always be twisted around. Trump suggested Musk is out for himself, which again, it could be.
Of course he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. He could come out and say, yes, I didn't. And he already did. Musk already defended himself on this one, saying, I actually was asking for EV mandates and EV subsidies to be stopped. And he said I said Tesla didn't need them, and we didn't need all of this, because Trump came out to say, he wants lots of money for EVs. And this actually ends up looking good for Musk, because he's like, no EVs should be subsidized. If the market wants it, then let it have it. So again, this is another insult that ends up looking better for the person being insulted. And then Trump's allegation of a Musk flip-flop. Again, he could either come out and say, yes, I'm fully for this, or this could be the breaking point where each could go publicly in separate ways, but internally maybe still with each other. And Musk leaned into the power struggle. Trump floats cutting Musk's government contracts, which, again, if he cuts a bunch of contracts that are public-facing, we would have to see what happens with SpaceX and what happens with the actual more important things than just the EVs and things like that.
Yeah, and you also want to pay attention to the contracts Musk is getting privately, not in the public sector when it relates to the U.S. government, but Trump recently brought him to meet all the world leaders and presented him as the primary figure for AI investment. So possibly they're just having a public break from the administration so they don't question the foreign investment I would expect Musk to get from foreign governments. If he does get those investments from Saudi Arabia and other countries like that, I think they're still working together behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I mean, he got mad about Trump's big, beautiful bill. I don't know. Again, it does seem like...
He did put a lot of hard work and effort, and he was sleeping on the couch in a small office trying to cut that budget. And he did bring a lot of people in, big balls, and what do you call it? That was the guy's name.
Oh, yes, the kids, essentially.
The hacker kid, his name was Big Balls.
Yes.
Why do you seem surprised?
Well, because I forgot, but I thought you meant he brought in a lot of people with big balls. Not in that sense.
A lot of people with big balls. Okay, maybe we should stop saying that. We might get censored on YouTube.
Saying the word balls.
Let's continue
I'll read some comments. Rafa says, it's too pathetic and hypocrite that Trump says that now they separate.
What do you say? He's speaking broken English there.
Rafa says, it's too pathetic and hypocritical that Trump says that now they separate.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think that he was going to leave anyway. He was getting a lot of backlash for being so tightly aligned. He's going to get even more backlash if he gets private contracts from other governments around the world and he gets major U.S. contracts. So I'm not decided if this is real or fake yet. And they're doing a lot of things in public where I think if this was actually real, they would be doing things behind the scenes more.
Yeah. And a lot of the, again, allegations
and again, I don't have a firm stance on this yet. Usually I have firm stances on things right away. I'm not sure about this.
Yeah. And it's better to keep it open. And it also... I feel like CNN and the Democrats and a lot of people are like taking way too happy about this, and it's benefiting. They feel like it's benefiting them too much. Where, I mean, in a 4D chess move, it could be on purpose to distract them over here and keep doing things over here. We know he's done stuff like that. And then Walker says, we could have at least once a solid government without leftists in the United States as a leader in hegemonic power in the West, like the Chinese and Russian worlds, please. Walker also says the CCP must be watching with popcorn and a Coke in a comfortable couch. And that's the thing. I think if it's all fake, it might be to, distract also other people and the tariffs and etc.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what kind of happens here. Let's go into the next story. We spent quite a long time on Musk and soap opera drama.
So this is from GenSpect. If you don't know who they are an organization that essentially wants to stop the mutilation of harm of children. And I recommend you go follow them because they have actual good information. And it says, a long-suppressed Olson-Kennedy puberty blocker study is finally out. After 2 years on blockers, youth showed no significant improvement in depression, emotional health, or parent-reported behavior. Once again, the Dutch study results failed to replicate. The Dutch study was essentially the one thing that all of the trans activists, trans doctors, WPATH, which is the largest trans organization that is for just gender-affirming care and for transing children, relied on for the longest time, saying that puberty blockers worked and also that cross-sex hormones and in conjunction or after puberty blockers were what was lowering depression in a lot of these gender dysphoric kids. But it turns out, no.
Yeah, and when you can't replicate studies, that's not real science. And so they're quoting studies they can't replicate, and that indicates maybe there was certain dirty business going on with the study, and it shouldn't be quoted as real science if it can't be replicated. One area this is very common in, 60 to 70% of the scientific experiments they do in sociology, which is like psychology and things like that, they can't replicate. Mm-hmm. That's why a lot of conservatives want to kind of disregard sociology and psychology statistics, because they do it once, they quote it like this is the way it is. Oh, trans people are committing
ending of lives.
Ending of lives and things like that, but the studies aren't replicatable.
And especially with the Joanna Olson Kennedy study, this specific study, which has been dubbed the Olson Kennedy study, they actually blocked her. They weren't letting her publish it. It went through a lot of back and forth between her and initially who were supposed to be letting her do it. And because they knew that this study would prove their lies to be false or to be lies. So it's good to see that finally it's getting out and that finally at least someone is reporting about it. But once again, these are all the things that they don't want regular people to know because it would completely crumble their narrative on puberty blockers, for example. And also puberty blockers being reversible, which they are not. And there are actual studies that say that as well. But once again, the information gets blocked from getting any mainstream attention. And then some of the physicians and doctors that do these studies get completely ostracized or canceled in a way on media, social media, saying that those studies are fake or false. And then people, when they try to quote them, they can't find them. So finally, it's good that this got released to the public.
Yeah, definitely. So we're starting to see the narrative shift without all this USAID money to fund these NGOs, to fund these false research statistics of puberty blockers and things like this. Their narrative is really starting to fall apart and actual science is starting to come to the surface. So, and there's going to be a hangover effect because the money just got cut off. Mm-hmm. So over the next few years, I expect the narrative to really shift based upon the science.
Hopefully. And
replicatable science, I'm thinking, is really going to start emerging. Okay, let's go into the next story here.
So this comes from
and by the way, the colors look phenomenal. They look a lot better. I'm happy with all the adjustments.
You're happy with ruining my Spanish show. Thank you. I'm glad you're happy.
Well, it looks good now. All day I've been kind of shifting the sets, doing measurements, fixing the camera's colors, but I can't adjust a lot of things until we're live on the air on your show, and I can be behind the camera and do a bunch of tests.
And messing up my show.
Well, it looks good now.
So this comes from Canada Proud. From X, more than 30,000 Canadians are employed by Home Depot. Does Olivia Chow know or care? So this is about...
and this is the mayor of Toronto, this Asian woman dressed in yellow that looks like Big Bird. And she sounds like Big Bird, too, because she's just going to squawk here.
Hopefully the sound works.
Making our city inclusive. Now, we've all seen the depressing news. Pride Toronto have lost some corporate sponsor because they just don't know who they are. They're short-sighted. They don't know who they are. And the first round...
Is that the new King of Canada and the new Queen of Canada? What is that?
Of corporate cuts for about $300,000, the city of Toronto said, you know what? We're going to come to the table. We will provide a grant that is $350,000 and every year for 5 years, 62% increasing the funding by 2027. Yeah, that's our commitment to you.
That's craziness.
Now, then there's the security costs, and then there are now Google and what? Okay, we won't even. I know. I hate telling them. Yeah, don't shop at Home Depot, guys. Rona. Okay. Yeah. There are other choices. Anyway.
And that was the main part at the end. Don't shop at Home Depot. Home Depot in Canada is a major employer, and if they decide to leave the country, which they very well could at this point, it would have a major effect on the Canadian economy. And the fact that the Canadian government stepping in when they're financially strapped to fund this parade that is indoctrinating children and things like this, I'm kind of against it. Like, the public sponsors are pulling out for a reason because there's a lot of political backlash. And there's a lot of people in these cities that don't agree with this, but you're not funding their things, you're funding this thing. So,
yes, even the Toronto Sun, Brian Lilly, says Chow's hard left politics could cost city thousands of jobs. Toronto mayor called for a boycott of Home Depot after it dropped out as Pride Festival sponsor. And she didn't even seem that committed to it. Like
well, she's been dancing the last few days, doing crazy things. So.
I know, but she sounded very like werewolf on you. Yes.
Well, and this just
but didn't sound excited.
This just shows the direction Canada's going. This particular mayor, all of her policies do make headline news. So this one was funding the Pride Parade, $350,000 because corporate sponsors are pulling out. Last week we did this story about the pods. She's basically moving shipping containers in off the ships, putting them side by side and turning them into homes for old folks and praising this like this is a great thing. Mm-hmm. You're putting old people in shipping containers, yes. And then you're probably just gonna, once they die, bury the shipping container in the ground and say, oh, we're saving money. Like,
or offer them the maid service.
Like, it's really turning extremely dystopian in Canada, and this mayor is the one implementing a lot of these policies, tip of the spear, meaning Toronto's the first one to try a lot of this stuff. 15-minute cities, the manufacturing of all the bugs. They had two of the biggest cricket farms in the world were done in Ontario as well. So all the stuff that like people say were conspiracy theories, you're going to live in these pods and eat bugs, they're actually implementing in Canada, and it's kind of scary.
Yes. I mean, I'm fine with eating bugs, but if it's not in your culture, then I get why people don't like it. So yes, Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow's call for residents of Toronto to stop shopping at Home Depot could cost the city thousands of jobs. The company is currently looking to move its Canadian headquarters from an industrial park off of the Don Valley Parkway, and Chow's comments could see it leave the city altogether. At a pride flag raising ceremony on Monday, Chow called out Home Depot for deciding not to sponsor the Toronto Pride Festival this year by encouraging people to shop elsewhere. Anyway, shop Canadian, shop Rona, yes, yes, yes. We are not the 51st state. Are you kidding me? We are proud Torontonians, right?
Yeah, and let's just remember some of these other things. You're not allowed to protest transgendered story hour in Canada. They set laws up where it's a no protest zone, a certain distance
from the public library.
From the public libraries where they do these transgendered story hours, because there was a huge backlash with the public and things like this. So, I mean, we go over it on here every day, so I'll just leave it at that for today, and we'll go on to the next story, I guess.
But also like that it has become, in Canada, for example, it's not Pride Week, month, now it's Pride season, so it's all of summer. The emphasis that they have put on this particular minority group is also, I mean, even they sometimes say this is too much.
Yeah, well, they just need to desexualize Pride. If Pride wasn't so sexualized, people would be a lot more okay with it.
Yeah, if it was a celebration of the successes from the struggles that the community went through at some point when there was a lot of discrimination, a lot of violence directed towards them, sure. I mean, I'm sure most people would be fine with that. But it's the other stuff they've been adding in the past few years that, even though they say it's part of the history of Pride, it's not.
Okay, let's go into the, what do we have next?
British Christians.
Okay, let's see. Oh, and it's a clip.
This is from Dr. Malouf. UK British Christians in Leicester are forced to hear the Islamic call to prayer from approximately 70 mosques 6 times a day. This is a morning wake-up call.
Okay, and that's good. And I just wanted to play it to kind of make a point here. When I first seen this, I had to think about it for a minute. I'm like, no, this kind of isn't appropriate, because they're arresting preachers for preaching on the street in the UK because they have blowhorns or they're speaking too loudly. Yet you're allowed to blast a call of prayer extremely early in the morning and all times of day. Anybody else that played their music that loud or spoke on the street with a blowhorn, there's laws against it, and they are implementing these laws and arresting people for them. Yet the mosque can do whatever they want. This is a little crazy.
Well, in the UK, they were also arresting not just people praying, but people praying outside of abortion clinics. If somebody
their head.
Yeah. If somebody thought in their head that they were praying for the lives or for the unborn children, they have gotten arrested. They arrested a little old lady for praying in her head and asking her, kept questioning her. Yes, but what are you praying? Why are you praying? You can't be praying here.
Well,
blah,
she
blah,
didn't
blah,
want to
blah.
lie. She could have easily said,
Yes.
no, I'm not. But she told the truth and they arrested her for it.
Exactly. So it's
thought crimes they're
this
arresting
is
her
also
for.
dystopian and insane. And the double standard. Rafa says, so the taxes that Home Depot pays to her administration are not enough for her.
Oh, exactly.
Also that. It coincides with the story I did in Spanish about the Trevor Project and all those celebrities begging the U.S. government to continue funding a disgusting organization, in my opinion. But then they don't want to pay out for it. They want the taxpayer to pay out for it. Or Oprah, who was begging for donations for Hawaii when she had who knows how many acres of land.
And we have Oprah.
There.
We have a story about Oprah later as well.
Yes. And then Rafa says, do you think not stepping on those gay flag mats is actually a form of protest? When one is in my way, I don't know if I should avoid it or step harder on it.
Well, I don't know. In Canada and the United States, they paint the crosswalks with rainbows. And a lot of people that in protest spun their tires out on the rainbow flags and they were arrested for hate crimes.
To leave marks on them.
Yeah. So it's not just like you're arrested for doing a tire spin. You're literally arrested for a hate crime.
There's also a funny video. I think it's in the UK where, horses, they're going through a parade in the city for something else. And then they come across this like rainbow crosswalk. And because horses are not used to that, and those are weird colors, and it seems like dangerous for them, they were trying so hard not to step on it. I don't know. In Mexico, another thing I saw. The other day, we were driving towards the airport, and we passed through the PAN, Partido Acción Nacional's headquarters, which is supposed to be the conservative party, but it's not. It hasn't been, I think, ever. But it's the only conservative-ish thing that exists in Mexico. Their crosswalks are painted in rainbows in Mexico City, which is insane. And it's obviously for them because it's right where their building is and the sidewalks that lead to their building. So we know what their actual agenda and what their actual purpose is here as well. So it's coming to Mexico to infect us as well.
Okay, let's go into the World Economic Forum. And this is a little bit of an older story. I think we've played this clip before. I'm kind of bringing it up again because over the last week, there have been quite a few major politicians coming out with this exact same stance. And this is Jane Goodall. Obviously, now they've got her shilling this.
Yeah, she used to help
like
chimpanzees and monkeys. But yes, from Wide Awake Media, the World Economic Forum's Jane Goodall suggests that reducing the human population down to 500 million, a drastic 93% reduction.
Oh, and let's remember this number of 500 million. If you remember the Georgia Guidestones, I don't know if a lot of people know what the Georgia Guidestones are, but they're these huge stones in the middle of the forest in Georgia in the United States. They're kind of reminiscent to Stonehenge a little bit, about the same size, but it was written in like 4 or 5 different languages, and it was the tenets of what kind of globalist wanted to do with the world. One quoted 500 million as what they want to reduce the world's population down to. So, and when people try to research who funded it, eventually it came out that it was most likely the Rockefeller organization, but it did it through a series of shell companies. So they had deniability for it.
You also like conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
and I'll clarify that.
Well, those Georgia Guidestones were recently blown up in an act of terrorism. So, okay.
We can't say that word, but okay. Yes.
We cannot hide away from human population growth because, it underlies so many of the other problems. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem if there was the size of population that there was 500 years ago.
And this is kind of like when I do talk to liberals and progressive, they all tout this line. Mm-hmm. And conservatives are kind of on the opposite side, that we do need to populate and things like this.
And in Spanish, I've actually talked, and English, because I talked about that documentary called Population Collapse. I forget the last bit of it, but you can find it on our other channel in English and in Spanish when I've talked about population collapse, because it's not population growth now. Every almost single country is on the trajectory. Even countries in Africa that used to be the ones that were the most growing in population thought to. They're all declining at a rapid rate, and it actually has way more implications than people think about. But since around the 60s, 70s, when the population bomb, that book came out, and then a lot of other environmental activists started talking about it, that's when the whole population explosion, population bomb thing started happening, and the discourse completely changed towards we need to reduce population. Meanwhile, population was actually reducing and is continued to reduce in alarming levels to the point where, I mean, I looked at this and I mean, this person just, I think, said it pretty well. John Paul Berg says this encapsulates the neo-Malthusian sentiment shared amongst these fundamentalist secular ideologues. They consider human life no more sacred than an insect infestation. It's irredeemably sinister.
Yeah, and a lot of these countries are going to have a hard time because when the population starts to age out, there's no way for the social to pay the Social Security, so the old people are kind of left on their own. But the older voter bloc gets bigger and bigger because there's less and less young people, so they won't vote away their Social Security and things like that. In some countries right now, for every one young person, they actually pay the taxes for 2 older people to have their Social Security, which I don't know what the solution is. The West is thinking the solution is bringing in more immigrants, and we're seeing massive negative effects of that. So something has to really be done.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm looking for the name of that documentary because I really do want to recommend it. It is called... Okay, hold on. I'm trying to find the...
Okay, let's go into the next story then.
No, hold on. I'm looking for... I found it.
Oh, okay. We'll throw it on the screen. I'm just sitting there on my own. We can put you on if you want.
No. So it's called Birth Gap. It's by Stephen J. Shaw. I actually did a whole thing about it in English. Birth Gap, A Childless World. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. It came out 2023, but it's still very pertinent today, and the actual statistics and figures have grown since. And I did a segment in Spanish recently where I kind of went over the new numbers, but it also ties into a lot of the things that interest me and worry me. For example, the narrative that feminism and the population bomb and all the environmentalists have kind of concocted together that we need less and less children and that children are the worst thing you can do. And it has kind of become this narrative that both of them have begun to spin and continue to spin. And I think it is worrying that so many young women, for example, are never told that their fertility starts declining at age 27 when a lot of them think it's at age 40. And also that allows the growth of IVF practices to continue to explode, also allows for surrogacy to continue to be a thing. It's a disgusting industry as well. So, I mean, population is very important, and it's also important to highlight a lot of the lies and the facts that they tell us day in, day out, especially as women, if there's any women watching, where there has to be more people talking about it and against it. And it's funny because Reuters actually did a fact check on this, on the Jane Goodall quote, but it wasn't actually a fact check at all. They did this thing where it's like, she didn't exactly say that, but she actually did say it.
Yeah, she did.
So we just
heard
it. But it says, fact check, Jane Goodall did not advocate for forced depopulation in WEF's speech. And they kind of say what the...
Well, forced, yeah, she didn't say forced, but they did. She was advocating for depopulation.
Yes, and here's the verdict, they said. Hold on. Missing context. Jane Goodall said human population growth underlies a lot of climate-related issues in our world. At a speech in Davos in 2020, she did not advocate for forced human depopulation. The article, blah, blah, blah.
No, nobody's saying that.
Yes,
she did.
But here they said, Goodall, however, did not use the word depopulation or advocate for the forceful reduction of the world's population.
Yeah, but you put...
And they actually put the damn quote here as well.
Yeah, but this is a soft play. First, you start saying soft quotes like this once it's socially acceptable and everybody agrees on depopulation. Then you go into forced depopulation in the MAID program and things like this.
Yes. So they say the clip circulating online was taken at around timestamp 3137 and shows Goodall saying, we cannot hide away from human population growth because, you know, it underlies so many of the other problems. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem if there was the size of the population that there was 500 years ago. And then they say, she did not use the word depopulation. No, but she said the same thing in different words.
Okay. Okay, let's go into...
Sorry, this gets me riled up, and then I go on for too long and you get mad at me.
No, it's fine. Well, because we've divided the shows now. The morning is firmly pop culture. This is firmly politics. So we have a little bit more time for the stories. I didn't like repeating stories. Mm-hmm. It was easy to gather enough pop culture for a show in the morning and then have enough politics for the night. I really don't like repeating a bunch of the stories. Some people watch both shows, so...
Yes. And Rafa says, I've been thinking of spilling paint thinner on those crosswalks. I mean, it would get rid of it. And Rafa says, Malthusian grandma. Yeah. And that's sad because I did like Jane Goodall.
Yeah,
like everything she did for primates.
A lot of old people, where they get their information and things like this, they can easily drift into a bubble and not realize what the other side is.
And they've also kind of kept up with that narrative, and they haven't tried to see or find even, or when they do, they're not, like they find scientists that dispute their claims, but then they don't believe them, and etc. So they do get insulated into this kind of their own knowledge, but they don't actually want to continue to learn after, a certain age, sadly.
Okay, and let's go into Mark Carney. And
I don't want to go into Mark.
Well, this is just showing his hypocrisy here. And this is his former finance minister. She now has another position in her cabinet, but she kind of gets grilled on what the Liberals ran on in Canada, specifically Mark Carney. He said dollar for dollar tariffs on Donald Trump. What he actually did was he put tariffs on all goods from the United States, and then he said, we're just not going to implement them right now. So basically they have tariffs, but they don't actually enforce them.
But there's not.
So they can say they have tariffs on the United States, but they're not actually implementing any pain on the United States. Like, okay.
This is coming from the real Mr. Bench on X, and this is Melanie Joy. Hold on. But she brings no joy to it.
And when she went to go negotiate with the Trump administration, when Mark Carney first got in office, she went down to Washington D.C. and she had 2 days of meetings with all Democrat candidates, and then on the last day went to see Trump, and then things didn't go well. I wonder where she was getting her talking points and her ideas from. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Concept of dollar for dollar retaliatory tariffs. At one point in the campaign, the leader, Mark Carney, was talking about that. Why not dollar for dollar tariffs today?
So I don't know if it was you or somebody else asked him already the question. It is an important question. We have had really strong counter tariffs against the Americans already. With China and now newly Mexico, we've imposed important counter tariffs. We will make...
So now she's saying we've put tariffs on the United States, China, and Mexico. We don't believe in tariffs.
No, alongside with Canada, China.
Okay.
China, Mexico.
But they do have hold on. They do have tariffs on China specifically.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's so much against tariffs, but they're one of the primary countries that implement tariffs on other countries.
Yes.
We impose maximum pain to the U.S. while having minimum pain, minimum impact to Canadians. We are looking at different scenarios right now, and we will take a decision, but we need a bit more time right now, not too long. But of course, what is fundamental is we need to make sure that in everything we do, we're able to get to the best deal with the Americans, but at the same time that we're able to create and protect jobs here in the country.
Canada was
we're going to do nothing, essentially.
Canada was the first to have tariffs implemented upon them, and they should have went to the negotiating table then, only they tried to play hardball. The UK has already got a deal. It looks like Canada's actually last in line to get a deal, or at least that's what it's kind of starting to appear as.
Yes, and I mean, with Mark Carney, we have also seen him flip-flop on a bunch of things. Like, he came in during the elections with the whole elbows up thing, which is a hockey analogy. And then he's been elbows down ever since he had to sit in front of Trump, and he looked like someone had taken his school lunch.
Okay, well, I had repeated that story twice, actually.
Yes, I saw.
Okay, well, let's head over to RUMBLE. We got just a few, 4 stories. Over there.
Yeah.
If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so.
Yes.
So, and on our I have a morning show that's called Live with the Guy. It's at 12 noon, 12 Central Time on this channel. It covers pop culture and production. And this show does politics. And there's a show just before this on our other channel called Nat and the Guy in Espanol. And that's Nat covers usually two or three major topics in depth.
Yes, whenever it doesn't turn into a shit show
in
because
Spanish.
Guy decides to move around all the cameras and distract me from what I was saying.
You can't get away from your feminist nature, can
It's
you?
not it's a wife nature. Okay, so we're going over to RUMBLE. Follow us there, same channel name over there, and I'll do the clap.
You shouldn't do the clap. Okay, I'm going to log out here and oops. What the hell does that button do?